So welcome everyone and good evening. Thank you for joining my masterclass. I really hope that you will get inspired, that you will hear some new insights and maybe get some new ideas regarding e-learning. I was just talking with Alexandra, it was a bit challenging to create a presentation to be more generic because e-learning can be very specific depending on the target group that you are implementing in, the context, the purpose, and the industry. But I did create some slides, and I did focus on key drivers of the engagement. So I really hope that you will all find it very useful. If you will feel that at some point you want to ask more concrete question, you can write your question in the Q&A box. And here you can see my name and my email address. So if you would like to discuss more about the engagement in e-learning, you can feel free to contact me afterwards. My lecture will have two parts. First, I will go through some slides and give you the intro and some, baseline knowledge on engagement when it comes to e-learning. And then afterwards, and this would last about 30 minutes, and then afterwards I will welcome my guest, Mitja Kulčar, who works in Mall Group, and he will share the amazing experience that he had in implementing e-learning in Mall Group. And how did they get to this amazing 90% of engagement? Mitja, I will present you a bit later when your part will take off. But for start, you could see my name. I will introduce myself first. My name is Ivana Jandrić. I work in LQ. So LQ is a Croatian L&D company that develops organization and leaders in various ways. We do a lot of leadership training, assessment, coaching, and of course e-learning. So we implement e-learning in different organizations, and I'm the head of that department. But let's kick off with our lecture. Before we even start with talking about engagement in organizations, I will stop sharing my screen and I would like to first ask you a question. I think you can see it now in your screens, and the question goes, do you use e-learning in your organizations? So yes or no, you can start answering the questions. I don't know, do you see the poll question? Okay, we have 50-50.
It disappeared for a minute, but now it's visible. Everything's fine, so that people can check their answers.
Okay, I'll give just a bit more, a few minutes for people to answer. So it's more yes than no, as I can see. Okay, so majority of the attendants say that they do use e-learning in the organizations. Good. This will make my life a bit easier because it's more easier to discuss the engagement on those who have some kind of experience. Of course, for those who do not use any sort of e-learning in their organization, I think this will be very helpful and insightful if you're thinking in implementing e-learning at some point. Okay, I will stop now with polling. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see the results, but I can see it. So it's more than 70% of people who do use e-learning in the organization, and only around 20% who don't use it. Okay, this is a good first start. As I said, let me go back to my, sharing my screen. Where was it? Here it was. Okay. Okay. Talking about engagement drivers, because of course our topic now today is how to drive the high amount of engagement. just to have a wider picture on the global level, and what does it mean globally? If you look at on average, where does percentage of engagement go? Where every organization who implemented e-learning with various platforms, usually on average, it's around 40 to 50% of engagement. And if organizations do get to that percentage, they're usually very satisfied, and we can say that the project is, successful. But is it enough to, push the habit of daily learning, or to even have the habit of logging and learning in a new ways of digital? I would say no. So today, I think the e-learning is used as something that is additional to a regular L&D methodologies and programs. And it's not something that is actually some kind of base or a centric point of learning in organizations. That's why the percentage on average on a global level, it's around 40 till 50%. But as you can see from the title of today's masterclass, we're going to discuss on how to push it till to get this 90+% of engagement. And to do so, there are 4, I would say, main engagement drivers that you have to have in mind when you create an engagement plan. And they are leader engagement, their communication strategy, relevant content, and user motivation. So all that should be in line with the business goal. I will pause a bit here just to highlight the importance of having a connected business goal with implementation of e-learning. So there are organizations that implemented e-learning as a project that is part of their digitalization, and something that it's now must have in HR or in organizations. And usually when you don't have a clear goal, why do you implement e-learning? Like, with what purpose? What business results should it push? Usually you will get even lower engagement. So I would say the 0 step is to really understand, why do we want to implement e-learning, and how would it help drive a business results? I'm sure that many of you attended HR Week conference, and that you could hear many topics that were, linking the importance, why it's important for the HR department to really start living their role as a business partner. And I think even in implementing e-learning, this is something that should be in your mind, because dominantly today, implementing e-learning comes from as a HR initiative, but not so rarely now, it also can be a business initiative. If we're talking about the first component, and that is leader engagement, what you really have to have in mind is that, like any other project, if you want to cascade through all organization and really enroll it to a wider audience, it should always have a sponsorship from higher levels. Of course, if the higher level of sponsorship it is the better results we can expect. That having in mind, the e-learning project shouldn't be a project of the HR, it should be a project of the business. So everyone involved, especially leaders, should understand how this new tool or this new way of learning can really support the business development. Of course, having that in mind, we really need to think about the solutions that will help even the leaders motivate their team members to use e-learning. And how can you really do that? Of course, e-learning is a topic in question of organizational culture. And if, as an organization, you push learning to be a valuable and important part of everyone's life, then it's easier for leaders to understand their role in managing the KPIs and just expectation of this project. So talking about engagement, this is like the most common and the first KPI that we define when we roll out the e-learning. Because of course, if we really have a low engagement on the platforms, we cannot talk about a successful project, even though we have amazing content on the platform or a great platform with the great features. So how can we really connect that part? I would say the responsibility of the numbers, especially these engagement numbers, shouldn't be the number that HR should report on. It should actually be the part of performance conversations. So if you have a line manager and you maybe have some quarterly or yearly feedback conversation, I think definitely the e-learning engagement of that participant should be part of that conversation. Again, to include them more, you can say, okay, when we implement e-learning, some of the key points will be that the CEO or the manager will be the one who will communicate the results on the platform. He will be the one who will congratulate the team for reaching a certain milestone and things like that. So they should be really involved from the very beginning and throughout the whole process. Of course, if you use platforms that have gamification as a part of their features, the managers should be the one who will communicate a great success of their team or some individual results. But as you know, managers do have their operational things that happen daily, and they do not have time, of course, to search for the data and then make some Excel sheets and things like that. So if we're talking that we really want to invite the leaders into the project and into this change, then it should be also in your mind, especially for those organizations that answered in a poll that they do not have e-learning. Have in mind that the platform that you're looking for should have some kind of leader zone where they can easily track the numbers and where they can easily understand how to lead and talk to each user of the platform. So today's the latest generation of the e-learning platforms do have like special suites only for the leaders, where they can, with one click, they can understand where they're standing with a certain knowledge, where the certain member of his team is lacking the knowledge or lacking the confidence or something related to the group and a certain user of the platform. In this way, leaders can easily use the data to understand the needs of their team and to manage them through the whole project. So to sum up, this first important driver, as I mentioned, it's a leader engagement. We want to have leaders right from the start in the project. We want to have like a senior sponsor of the project in order to e-learning to cascade throughout the whole organization, and that everybody understands that it's not just a new HR tool, but it's a business tool that we can really accelerate the growth of the business. Moving forward, if you remember, the second part is the communication strategy. So communication is, of course, very important. Like in every other project, this goes also in implementing e-learning. I recently read that there was a list of new skills that are necessary for the HR, and one of them was marketing skills. So you really need to look at your users and your employees as your customers. If you look at it in that way, you would know how to really approach the whole marketing concept and just like selling the project to them. And the process looks similar to the things that your marketing team is doing when you launch a new product or a new service in your company. It actually all starts with building an awareness of why the change is needed. So when you start creating a communication plan, you really need to have that in mind. Like the first step is just building an awareness. It's not just launching the project and hoping that people will understand. It's really giving the why. Why do we move in this direction and why this change is needed? Afterwards, with all different communication tools, we create a desire. We want our participants to desire to be part of the project and to support the change. This whole graphic really is showing how does the process of achieving individual change looks like, and I will be focusing on the last 3 steps in a few minutes when I will talk about the content. But if we're focusing on a communication part, so the first step and the key messages should be around building an awareness and creating a desire of participants to be part of the project. But how do we do that? First of all, we need to know and address who are the stakeholders of the project. So of course we have executives, and if we think about the possible objections the executive could have, it is usually around the time of the job for training, like how will it influence the users, whether they are managers or frontline workers, how much time it will take from their job to learn. And it's a completely natural question because of course we don't hire our employees to only learn to 8 hours per day, but we really want them to have the habit to learn continuously and not to take too much time out of their day just in learning. So this is a very logical objection that the executive could have. Of course, if we're talking about the L&D department and those usually who are initiators of this project, many questions do come around, like how are we converting our regular content and our regular programs now in an e-learning environment? And of course, how can we expect support from the sponsors and the executives? So these are the main concerns of L&D. Of course, you will see, especially if you're a big organization, IT will be part of your conversations, and it will be around security questions and some, technical requirements that the solution needs to follow. If we're talking about the people leaders, they will have questions around how is this different from everything that we had till now. Is there even a need to do that? And again, will my people even have the time to learn in this way? If we're talking about the end users, who can be managers and who can be frontline workers, they will like to know when will he have a time or she to have time to learn something on the platform, because we are all overloaded with some operational processes that we are doing regularly in our daily job. And of course, the main question is what is in there for me? We need to give them why. Why is this something that will help them actually be better and do their better job and do their job better? So we have like different stakeholders, and for each of these stakeholders, we create a special kind of communication plan and messages that they need to get. talking about the end users, I did mention that we do have like two main profiles of the end users. One of them are our frontline workforce, and other are corporate staff. And why did I put this slide here? This is actually very important because creating a learning journey for frontline worker and for the corporate staff is quite different because their needs in learning are completely different. If we look up the frontline workers that are usually some retail workers or the people who work in your contact center agents, people who are in manufacturing, drivers, all of the frontline force, they're usually and often deskless, or they have some duty bound. They don't have like business laptops or business phones. So this is something that is very restricting when we talk about how to implement e-learning to that population. And then they have unpredictable availability due to irregular or part-time shifts. Also, they are the front line of any business and can make or break it. So you need to have that in mind. And when we are talking about the learning needs, learning needs to revolve around job performance. So if we are implementing e-learning for the frontline workers, it should really be around content that is around their job performance. And if we look up the corporate staff, marketing professional, administrators, managers, and so on, they are very desk-centric, and their typical working hours are 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And for them, learning needs to revolve around career development and career growth. So having that in mind, the learning journey and the communication should be very different if we launch for each of these target groups. But in any case, whether we implement e-learning for frontline or end managers, we need to give them the answer of on what is in there for me. So that why, giving the people why, is very important if we really want to see these high numbers in engagement. So why should they care, and what will they get out of it? We need to give them the details about the solution, communicate the benefits of participating. We have to focus on the challenges and opportunities. Giving the example, you have communication issues where, let's say for the managers, there is like hundreds communication channels, emails, some project management tools or whatever. And internally that this is like your challenge, not just in learning, but in communication. So what you need to address is, guys, that we have a problem with, million of communication challenge, but this new tool will be now the central place of our communication, giving the latest news and all the information you need. And for the front lines, of course, usually there isn't any tool that you use, because usually they are deskless and don't have business phones. And in many cases, organization cascade of informations in the stores and just putting it on a blackboard, some new information, or just sending the email to one station or whatever and hoping that everybody will get the same information at the same time. So if you put that in your communication plan, saying, okay, that this was the challenge, with this new solution, we are hoping that we will resolve it. And this is the way how we're going to do it. And again, if we want to see the high engagement, it is very important to communicate who is the sponsor of the project and how will this new tool or new way of learning really influence the business results, so that they really understand that it's going to be like a game changer for everyone, and it's not something that they need to do additionally or one more thing out of their checklist. So when we are talking about the communication, there are three main stages that are included, and they go like from zero communication, that it's a pre-launch communication, communication on the launch day, and then post communication. And I mean communication after we launch a certain platform, initiative, or whatever you have regarding e-learning. When it comes to pre-launch, it's very important that you have in mind those first steps that I mentioned, creating an awareness and desire. So how do we do that? We create some announcement emails. We do have some announcements on some internal portals, or we push some teaser videos, maybe even putting some posters in the company, or having webinars for leaders before even launching. This is very important to onboard leaders before the launch, before we launch it to the whole population. Then, and this is now specific communication, but when we look into the launch, it is the best recommendation to have a certain launch event around the kickoff. So the best practice is really to have it face-to-face, or to organize it in a way that everyone should be log in at the same time, with some maybe gifts, presents that will really celebrate this first milestone. So if you really look at it, it's basically marketing campaign. We have something pre-launch communication where we create some kind of buzz. Then we have a big kickoff event where we include sponsors, managers who attend the event, communicating the whole purpose of it, and getting the inputs on how to download the app or how to log into the platform. And then not to forget, this isn't the part where we stop communicating. So if we really want to have continuously high engagement on the platform, we do need to think about the communication strategy even on post-launch communication. And that usually includes some encouragement emails, broadcast messages, communicating the first results, the first winners of some challenges, celebrating every milestone that we have in the project, or if we even have some competition between teams or individual competition, then it's very important to communicate that as well as celebrating those milestones. So this is, as you can see, we have 3 phases, and all 3 are equally important to have and to think about in advance. This is some examples on how customers usually brand a kickoff event or some e-learning initiative. The first picture is actually a sticker on the floor of manufacturing where people went through health and safety topics, or just creating some gadgets, badges around the whole project. And this is something that's very useful, because in that way they are reminded of their daily learning every day by looking at some posters or some stickers or some rewards they got. Now we are in the 3rd step of engagement driver, and it's a relevant content. If you know, usually how does a typical change look in organization? It's like this. So I use this picture from the internet, so it's not something that I created, but I find it very funny and relatable. So how does it look like when we want to educate our people, whether it's a face-to-face or through e-learning? We usually have some operational priorities that we now want to cascade and get people to learn about those operational priorities, but people do not have time because they are in their job, in their regular to-do lists. And this has been a great challenge for e-learning in general on how to approach creating a content that won't take too much out of the time for every learner. So instead of looking in which days are the most suitable to have a face-to-face workshop or some training module, or how many hours I can take off my people out of the floor to hear something. I think the priority should be around minutes. Like what minutes a day are more suitable for people to have this regular e-learning experience. And it really sounds a bit scary, and like, how can we even make that happen, that learning just lasts few minutes and that it's so regular. In e-learning, we have one term that's called micro-learning. And maybe I think many of you did hear about it because you use it, e-learning in your organization. And it's a term that explains approach to training that delivers content in a short, focused bites. So for me, if you ask me personally, I think micro-learning is the future for learning in general. Like if we want to create this habit of learning, of daily learning, I think it should definitely be very short, focused content that they went every day. Maybe it's a 3-question quiz or something like that, but it's really needs to be something that will really get us there where we want, and that is learning in the flow of work. This is something that is a goal for every e-learning expert. We really want that learning happens regularly and that it's in the flow of work. Let me move to my next slide. I will talk more about micro-learning in a second. But what I wanted to highlight here is as well, when we talk about the relevant content, is that adaptive learning or this personalized learning experience is as important as the relevancy of the content. And how does it work? I put here a slide of 2 personas. So one is Peter. He's 1 year with the company. He's now changing the roles from warehouse rep to sales associate role. And then we have Alice, who is new in the company, but she do have a previous experience as a sales associate in another company. And these 2 personas really have a different knowledge level on the topics that we want for them to learn. So we want them to learn more about our brand, our products, maybe some safety topics, and our service standards. And as you can see, because of their different background, they have a different level of experience and knowledge for each of these topics. What is very important in e-learning, if we want to drive the engagement, is this adaptive learning, or you can also hear about the personalized learning, which means that when they start their journey on your platform or just going through some e-learning content, we want them to learn about learn more about the topics where they have a biggest skill gaps or knowledge gaps. Meaning, if the Peter logs into a platform, he will be more focusing on getting that knowledge on services, versus Alice, who doesn't know anything about our brands or very little about our products. She needs to really have him focus learning about the products. And you know from yourself, probably, when you log into something, and if you read a thing about that you heard so many times before, you're not really interested in logging in again to that platform. If there's something that you repeatedly been asking or reading about, and you know it by heart several years now, you don't really want to hear it once more. So this is important when you really think about e-learning. And I think majority of today's LMSs have this feature that they do have and support adaptive learning, where they have artificial intelligence behind it, and where they will really adapt the learning to the end users. Usually it happens that they will start with some assessment first. The platform will scan where the gaps are, and then really focused on those areas where the user is showing the less knowledge. If you remembered the slide from before, it was around achieving individual change. And we did say that the first two are around communication, in creating awareness and desire. And now I'm going to talk about last three. And it's, of course, related to the content. So if we really want to present information in a right way, this will be our third step, knowledge, where we really want what we want is knowledge on what is changing for me and how to change. So it's presenting a certain information to our users and thinking about the needs that need to be fulfilled for them. For example, we have a manager that will go through some, process through some program, and he will get, several informations from them for that, and then he, throughout some time, we are counting that he will have the ability to implement those informations that he had, because now it is turned to some specific skills and behaviors that we wanted to see. But oftenly, what is forgotten in creating a content and learning journey is the part of reinforcement. So usually we have a communication part. We created a super communication strategy. Then we had some very interactive e-learning content where we presented the knowledge and information. They went through the program, and they are now have some sort of ability to implement those skills. But really, to sustain that knowledge and sustain that change, we need to reinforce those knowledges and skills continuously. And this last step with reinforcement is usually put off in an organization. And unfortunately, this is the reason why we don't see that conversion where, okay, we can track the engagement, we can track the knowledge, the level of knowledge, but does it have an impact on the business at the end? I think the reinforcement is crucial, because you can have great e-learning journeys that have even blended events, some social learning involved, and all of this great content around it. But you really need to have in mind how does the brain learn, and this is serving small informations, small amount of informations, and repeatedly reminding people on those. To answer that, I do have a very popular data here. And it's about forgetting. I think all of you HR experts have the same challenge, I would say. You can create a great learning journey, great program, but unfortunately, through some time, it's very natural that we forget many things, and we go to our very known repetitive behaviors. And how to change that, how to really have that impactful learning, is to reinforce those knowledges. And we do it, of course, I mentioned the micro learning. So having a small chunks of informations that we will remind people on the certain behavior skills that they need to know. And it usually happens in these reinforcement sessions, where every day they get maybe 3 questions on a crucial thing. Let's say they went through the program, how to give feedback, and the program stopped, and every day till every next day they will get some reminders on that crucial skills and the process on how to prepare for feedback, what to give as a feedback, and things like that. So the reinforcement is really key if we want to see the change, and this is something that we need to have in mind when creating a content in e-learning, that it should have some follow-ups after we have after some big program finishes. And lastly, but not least, it's a user motivation. We know that the motivation in general is very intrinsic, and we cannot influence it in a way that we will train somebody to be more motivated, but we can create a motivational environment. What does it mean? It includes all of the steps from before. To just have a engaging environment means that we will have managers who will support learning. We will have relevant content for our users. So once they log in, they will see exactly what they would like to see or learn. And of course, if the communication is right, it will definitely accelerate their motivation to participate in e-learning. But I would also like to add to this a very popular term in e-learning. It's gamification. It's another like sweet extra on those engagement drivers. And as I said, the latest platforms do have different ways of gamifying the process of learning, whether it is that they go through some games while learning, collecting some points, competing between each other, or just, even exchanging their points for some rewards. So this is equally, I would say, important. If you really want to have an engagement, a high engagement, the learning should be engaging as well. And it's always answering on that question, what are the benefits for me? So if we ask our employees to give their time to learn, I think it should be also something that we give in return as some kind of reward or some kind of celebration of their improvement. Okay, this is all 4 of the key engagement drivers. As I said, I try to be very generic, but it's really hard to be, because many of those factors can be more specified depending on the context and the industry that you're working in. But let's hear more about driving engagement in practice. So I will stop sharing my screen so I can have a little panel discussion with Mitya, who is a global training and development lead in MOL Group. They did implement their e-learning solution in 2020. And they achieved amazing results, 90% of engagement. They did roll out it in their retail business, and Mitya was the one who was leading the whole project during pandemics. So I'm really excited to share their story with you. Mitya, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Hi, and hi to everyone, and thanks for inviting me. I feel flattered.
Okay, thank you. So to start, can you introduce yourself and the MOL Group? Give us some numbers on the number of markets that MOL Group is present and the number of companies that are part of your group.
Sure. So I'm from the beginning of my career, I'm actually in retail and my heart belongs to retail. However, I found the passion in helping the front-end employees to become the best of themselves. Today, I lead the global training and development team in MOL Group. And with my team, we are overseeing and supporting our 15,000 front-end employees dispersed in the 9 countries across the Central Eastern Europe. So MOL Group is present on all of the markets from probably where the participants today are, from Bosnia, Montenegro, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, and then Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, Czech Republic. We are known under 5 brands here in the region: INA, Tifon, Energopetrol, and then obviously MOL and Slovnaft. In terms of the numbers, to just give you a bit of context, who we are, for instance, every day we have 1 million customers on our service stations where we are serving them coffee, hot dogs, and fuel. Last year, we had more than 500 million USD EBITDA. Yeah, I think that this probably gives you a good context about our complex of operation.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go a bit step back. In 2016, if I'm not wrong, you started with a transformation of your retail business. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So yeah, in 2016, we kind of realized that fuel will not be the only thing which we will be selling in the future. So we did this massive transformation to become a true consumer goods retailer. And what this means exactly is that we started the shift from being a traditional gas station to today's service station with a strong focus on the gastro segment, which we call Fresh Corner, and probably you have seen those on our stations. So today, more than half of our network is actually covered with the Fresh Corners. And this physical transformation went very well. But we also asked ourselves, what about the people and how we can support them in this transition? Because, you know, transforming the people, it's not the same as transforming the physical look and feel of the station. So it's pretty much more complex. And also another question arose is how to reach 15,000 employees dispersed around all of these countries and more than 1,900 stations. So this kind of started or marked the beginning of our digital training transformation. And from here on, everything went very well. And this is what we will probably now touch in the next few minutes.
Yes, but before we go into details on how did implementation go, can you tell us how did education of the frontline employees look till then? How did you communicate with the workers on a gas station? How did it look like?
Yeah, before 2016 or before 2020, when we started the digital transformation, we actually were not really communicating with them because of the lack of technology. So we had one email address per station, which was read mainly by the station manager. And we were just hoping that the information which we were communicating to them through the email was delivered and conveyed as we wanted. So I think this was the first challenge, not to be able to communicate with them. On the other hand, if you just imagine the complexity of our operation when every day something is new, retail is always agile. We started to support them with a face-to-face approach in 2016, 17 in this transformation. However, we did this program for 3 years. Let's say in Hungary or Croatia, we needed more than 1.5 years just to do one route to deliver the face-to-face training. And if you also imagine from the logistical point of view, to move 15,000 people to some hotel conference room to deliver the training, it's kind of a nightmare. And with that, we also saw that we cannot say that we are really agile, considering how fast the retail is changing. So this was also one of the very important reasons that we started to consider going digital and to be able to push out immediately whatever there was from some critical point of view to communicate or to train our employees about something new.
Yeah, so going digital was a logical next step. Can you tell us how did the process of requirement look like? Like what functionalities were important to you?
So we identified, and again, maybe we can we can go one step back. What was important when we started to answer, when we started to ask all of these questions to ourselves? So how we can support our employees faster, how they can perform better, how we can communicate better with them. We started to really dig deeper into our operational problems. I remember that you also said before that it is very important that whatever you are building on some good business case. And what we did first is that we did a service design research on our stations, and we were really asking those potentially scary questions. So what is your problem today? What would help you? We were even asking ourselves what we are really trying to achieve. So these are the questions which I think were very important first step, and not to jump on the learning technology first, but to first understand what we need to solve. Once we answered all of these questions, this was lasting for about 6 months, we identified 4 areas which we wanted to cover with the digital solution. The first one was obviously training, because we realized that firstly, we need to extend our portfolio of all of the topics that needs to be covered. Together with the reinforcement, you also mentioned, or the forgetting curve, so how quickly we forget everything. The second part was onboarding. We are retail. The retail industry is anyhow more keen to have a higher turnover rate when it comes to the employees. So we also wanted to be faster in ramping them up and to prepare them for their first day. The third one was communicating. To be able to communicate with everyone instantly and to reach each and every employee, as opposed to the old ways, which I mentioned earlier, when we had only one email address, which was read by the station manager, and not actually allow the employees to access that computer in the back office. And then the fourth was to build kind of a knowledge library where we can save all of the job aids which are there for the time of need. So in case that an employee needs a guide how to clean the coffee machine or how to prepare a hot dog, they can just simply today search within the app about the keyword, and they would get all of the job aids or whatever instructions or videos that are related to that topic. So these are kind of the 4 pillars, how we call them, what we wanted to solve. And then this is how we started to look for the right solution to support us on this journey.
Okay, so the project started in 2020. It was during the COVID crisis. Can you share how did the process of implementation look like? How did you even start with the implementation?
We started very similar to how you described earlier. And I also think it was natural in the beginning that there was some resistance among everyone who was involved or who was also the target audience. And there was also some resistance in terms of raised eyebrows when we started the communication, what we would like to achieve. That's why we put like really a special emphasis on the stakeholder management and also engagement activities that were part of our change management implementation approach. So the most important was this early buy-in with the stakeholders, starting from the top management to the service station employee in all of the 9 countries. And let me just give you like 2 examples. Our first step to engage with the stakeholders was already when we started to build our case with the service design research, because this clearly showed all of the pains and the needs of both the business and also the people. So with this involvement, they were able to see that the transformation is inevitable. And the second example is that we started with the pilot first. We picked Slovenia for that, where we had 350 people who were testing this solution for 3 months. And we also had clear kind of KPIs, what we would like to achieve in order that we can say that this works, this is successful. The first thing was obviously the survey, which we did after these 3 months, and to see how they liked this new approach. The second one, if they will actually use and how often they will use it. And lastly, it was important to understand if the content which we had on the platform was meaningful and if it was supporting them for their kind of day-to-day performance. And yes, we succeeded with the pilot. So all of these KPIs which we have set were checked. So and then this was the beginning of starting the implementation in early 2020. But then, as you said, COVID came, and every project implementation probably is hard and challenging, but then imagine COVID, and we were kind of hit hard. But on the other hand, we also realized that this is an opportunity, because if ever, then during the COVID, it was inevitable to have the chance to communicate with people directly, to have the communication channel on one hand, and on the other hand, to have a strong training solution. If you just think back, and if you think about retail back in March 2020, there were literally new information from the government every day: what you can, what you cannot, should you wear the mask, should you wear the gloves, how can you prepare the food, what you can sell, what you cannot sell. So this was crazy back then, if you just remember. So I can really not imagine how we would survive successfully this period if we wouldn't be able to A, communicate with our employees, and B, train about all of these new procedures.
Wow. Sounds like a big challenge that I'm so happy that you succeeded, of course. Since you're using an online cloud solution, how do your people connect to the app? Because I assume it's a mobile learning, and like what devices do they use on gas stations? I think this is like a big question. I think many listeners are asking themselves.
Yeah, this was also a very important question for us back then, and we were not really sure how to deal with this question. So our assumption in 2019, when we were preparing everything, was that the employees will use the back office computers. However, we decided to be bold and to say, but if you want, you can also use it on your mobile phones, because there is a dedicated app for the solution which we are using. And already in the pilot, it was shown that more than 80% of employees were keen and open to download the app and use it on their own device. However, today we see that 92% out of 15,000 employees are using their own devices to access the application. So what does this mean is that they can do the trainings wherever, whenever, and we're not limiting anything. So I think that this is a very important recognition internally that what we have done is really something that they like on one hand, and on the other hand, it helps them do their job better because they are so open to use it on their own devices as well. Definitely, it was not an easy decision to go into this direction because here in the region, we were not able to find anyone who could share this kind of experience. We've heard that mainly from the US that these kind of things are happening, especially in retail. But we have never heard from our region that there is someone who has done that before.
Okay, I think that's a very valuable insight, especially if you, as you mentioned, you want to make learning accessible so that people can learn, whenever that it suits them, especially in retail, as you mentioned. So mobile first, I think it's a great approach, and to even give the opportunities for people to do the training on their devices whenever it's the best time for them. You did mention that you set up the KPIs at the beginning of the project. Can you, give us some insights on results and what was the feedback of the users?
Yeah, we have still today 2 KPIs which we are measuring daily, and they are like the most important for us, for the training team. And these 2 are because our approach when we started the implementation was that we wanted to move our frontline employees from this push approach to the pull approach. So from I need to do that to I want to do that. And I think the numbers are saying that we again succeeded in this direction, because the participation on the platform is 96% out of 15,000 employees. And this out of this 96%, they are logging to the platform more than 22 times per month, which actually means every working day, which is the most important thing for us. That by that we understand that what we are providing on the platform makes sense, and it helps them do their job more successfully. On the other hand, we have a few more KPIs. For instance, what is the knowledge growth? If we are seeing the impact from the courses which we are providing to them, yeah, these are actually the main 3 KPIs.
That's amazing. I mean, great numbers. I think it's so hard, as I mentioned in the first part of the lecture, to get engagement that is more than 50%. So having 95% on that population, 15,000 people, I think, congratulations to you. You did mention that some of the KPIs are related to the business results. Can you share, did you see the impact? You're now 1 year in the project. Did you see anything that it's measurable and directly linked to the business results?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably everyone who is working in L&D feels a pressure when this question is asked, and believe me, I do too. But the most important thing in our case is that we are really following the instructional design when it comes to developing the content. So we do whatever it takes to prevent the information dumping. Because if we just look generally into more conventional approach into designing the learnings, is usually just put this on them because they need to know, and because they need to know. But rarely we ask ourselves what they need to do, and then actually coming from this perspective, if we know what an employee needs to do, then we know what they need to know in order that they do something. So this is kind of our main guidance when we are developing the content, and we are always asking ourselves how this particular training, which we need to create, will help impacting one of the business KPIs. So we have the results which we can see. For instance, one of the biggest learnings in the beginning when we started is that we started to develop the content about our fuels. And interestingly, the kind of baseline knowledge about the fuel was pretty low, even though that this was one of our main products. And we invested a lot of time to design an interesting and interactive trainings about how our employees can understand what are the benefits of our fuel, or what is the benefit of our premium fuel, how they can recommend the premium fuel to the customers. And in the last 1.5 years, we can see that the share of the premium fuel is growing. So we can see that our employees know how to recommend the premium fuel, for instance, and to explain to the customers in an easy way how they will benefit of that. The other one, which we can also see, is we do our marketing researches, and we see that the customers are seeing us as more competent and more friendly in the last 1.5 years, because we are also covering some soft skills on the platform. And there are many examples, but maybe just one more is that, for instance, when we have marketing campaigns, we can also see that our customers do engage more today as opposed to previous years. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, is also because the employees are more knowledgeable when it comes to promoting the aim of the campaign, and to promote to the customers how they can leverage from the campaign. So this is just a few things, but we can also see many, let's say, more softer impacts. Now, when we can communicate with our employees, we can also engage with them. They feel more connected to the brand. We can share best practices just in a few seconds, so that an employee from one side of the country can see what they're doing on the other side of the country. And this is also very important to build this engagement and also to connect them with the brand. And usually we don't think like that, but I think this is one of very important and positive impacts which we also identified.
Yes, great. So happy to hear the great results. We will open Q&A very soon, but before that, can you share what were your biggest learnings in the process? Like, what would you say are the key learnings you had?
Sorry for that. Maybe the most important one, which I would point out, is to understand that technology is an enabler and not the solution to the problem itself. So the technology is inevitable part that will support you in whatever transformation or just business as usual. However, it is also important that you understand the business and the users and what they need to achieve. So if you are not investing enough into what you will put on the platform, what trainings you will cover, and what performance problems you will solve, then probably or it is more likely that the project cannot be successful. I was just recently speaking to one of my colleagues from L&D, and she was saying that in the old times they were saying like, you know, bring me the solution, not the problems. But we who are working in training, we should always say, bring me the problems and we will give you the solution. And I really liked what she said, because this is exactly what we need to do. We need to be very curious about the problems in the business. And for instance, we are sitting in the business, not in HR. That's why I also think this is a very beneficial setup. Because we are in the heart of the business. We do hear every day what are our operational problems, other problems. Every business has problems, but we are here to solve them. So I like to hear about the problems. So be open to the problems which you have within the company. And by that, then you will also have the content which matters. What I would also say is you have said that, I also said that, but I would emphasize once again is a change management approach when you are implementing such solutions. Without that and without proper preparation for all of those steps, pre-launch, launch, post-launch, it is again less likely that you will succeed because people do not like change. That's the fact. So we need to prepare them for that. And the other, and maybe lastly, is who actually will feed this platform with the content, be it communication, be it with the training materials. After 1.5 years, we came to the solution how really we should operate. So we operate centrally from here, from Budapest, and then in each of the markets, we also have local teams. And I think that this was also one of the crucial things when we were looking at how we will actually operate the platform and who will be responsible for that. So if there is no dedicated team behind such platforms, again, I think probably you will less likely succeed. So this is in sum what I would say as key takeaways when it comes to implementation and also then to sustain and to grow such platforms.
Great. Thank you so much for your tips. I'm sure they are very valuable to all the listeners. I will invite everyone who has a question to write it before I ask my last question. You can feel free to ask everything you want, whether it's regarding the first part of the presentation or this amazing case study. So I will ask my last question, and it's around your plans for the future in e-learning at Mall Group.
The first one is actually just happening. It's about, if you remember, I said that we have 4 pillars and one of them is onboarding. Just now on Friday, we released the onboarding in Hungary. Today, we released it in Croatia and INA. And in the next few days, the remaining 8 markets to come. This is what we were working on for the last 6 months, and I can't wait that it will be rolled out everywhere. And in the future, definitely to build on what we have achieved, we would also like to focus more on leadership development for our managers on the stations. We would also like to understand better how we can connect the training with the business results. And also lastly, to see how we can be operational more efficient when it comes to the mandatory compliance trainings. Because, for instance, I haven't told you that, but usually when I talk to the colleagues from the network, is that learning usually starts with mandatory trainings. When you onboard in a company, you start with HSE, ethics, these kind of topics, which nobody really likes in the beginning. And we were not starting with these kind of topics. Whatever is mandatory today, it still exists in that way as it was. But we also see the opportunity to digitalize those things. Today, we have a great buy-in from our employees about the platform. So why we wouldn't digitalize these things as well, and to make it more appealing and more digestible to the users. And definitely work further on the onboarding. We just started, so we definitely would be very curious about the feedbacks next year to see how we can improve better, because there is probably no upper limit in how good we can be, so we can always be better.
Great. Thank you, Mitja, so much. I wish you all the best and to succeed in everything that you're now planning to do next.
Thank you.
I will now look at the chat thing. Okay, we have one question that is regarding adaptive learning. Tamara asks, is there any way to do it manually if they do not have a software to support it? Okay, so manually, yes. If you use, I don't know what platform or system of education you use, but I assume you have some kind of reporting behind it. Based on those insights, I think you can then, target the right content to the right user. But I think it's super hard if you will do it manually. I don't know at which number of users are we talking about, but if it's something that it's like huge amount of users to do the adaptive learning without the system or the platform that has that feature, I think it's like really hard. It will take a lot of like man hours to analyze the learning and then to adapt learning to a certain person where he's showing some gaps in the knowledge. So yes, it can be done, but it's like, I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's definitely best to see what platforms are in the market. I don't think you necessarily need to buy the most expensive ones or the ones that have all the new features in e-learning, because the majority of LMSs do have the reporting part very integrated, like any LMS platform has a reporting behind it. So at least with that part, you can understand what your people know and what they do not know, so you can then target the right content to the right users. So I think definitely the first step will be to find some kind of e-learning platform. Other question was for Mitja. What was the hardest to measure in L&D processes that you were talking about? What was the hardest thing?
I would say everything is hard to measure when it comes to what we do. Though at least what I think was easier is that when we develop the content, we always connect it to the business KPI. So for instance, I would just give you an example. If we have a marketing campaign then we know what we need to achieve, and we are asking ourselves how the front-end employees can support the marketing campaign. And obviously, there are many factors that are influencing the success of a marketing campaign. However, we also ask ourselves what we have done this time differently. And we know that the majority of the things which we have changed was actually the training and to prepare the employees for the campaigns, where as before, we were just sending one email out, summarizing what are the goals of the campaigns and what they were supposed to do. But today we are much more specific in what do they need to do, how do they need to do, what are the best practices. We have the whole communication plan throughout the campaign to engage them and to boost their engagement in this period when we have a campaign. Or if we just see, look at the knowledge level increase, because as Ivana was explaining, we have the micro-learning approach, and our approach is also that the employees are going to the platform every day for 3 to 5 minutes to have a training. And because in the micro-learning, our approach is based on the questions, so that they are getting the questions, we can easily measure what they know when they are firstly exposed to a question and what they know after a certain time when they are again getting these questions. And here we see even more than 50% knowledge increase, which I think is a very straightforward KPI when it comes to showing this to the management or to show how critical it was that we covered a particular topic.
Perfect. Thank you, Mitya. If you're wondering, MOL did implement Axonify. It's a micro-learning platform specialized even to push the performance of the frontline workers. We in LQ are representative of the Axonify, so if you will have any question regarding technology behind this platform, you can feel free to contact me around that too. I don't know if we have any other questions. I will just take a minute to wait. Maybe something will pop up. Maybe to answer also, to extend my answer to Tamara regarding this adaptive learning. If you do not have, as you've written, any software at the moment, you can have the same approach as Mitya had, maybe to just push some kind of survey to the whole population and just see what are their main wishes to learn about, like what is their desire. And that way you can be learner-centric and then just adapt learning to the majority of the people who maybe voted for a certain topic or a certain program.
Ivana and Mitya, thank you for this masterclass. Just wanted to check before we end the session. Ivana, did you have one more question for Mitya, or you finished with your question?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So if there's any question from the audience, you can type it now. If not, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you for this masterclass. It was very detailed, very informative. I'm sure that our members will enjoy listening to this further on, because both of you brought some important thoughts on this topic, but also solutions to some of the key questions we had here, and also interesting questions from the audience. So thank you once again. It was great listening to both of you, and we wish you all the best further on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.